Hi everyone, and welcome to VR for Work. Today, we're coming to you from our Starship, the VR for Work 1, circumnavigating the globe here high above Earth. Well, actually, we're coming to you today from within Immersed. Immersed is a VR application we've covered in many videos on the VR for Work YouTube page, which you definitely want to go check out. And in keeping with our search for another or a variety of platforms to use as we see spaces get sunsetted, we're going to use Immersed to bring you today's session. So again, just like when we used Engage last time, we're looking for the community's feedback on what you think about the platforms we're using to bring you our content, and kind of hope that you'll stop by the Facebook page, the Twitter account, or right here on the YouTube page, and tell us what you think about each and every platform. And that will give us some sense of maybe where we go, or in lieu of being in a spaceship today, where we might land on a new platform moving forward. So with that, let's jump in, and I will go into today's presentation. And today, here at VR for Work, we're going to be talking about, brought to you here on the Immersed platform, as I'd mentioned. Immersed is great. I work in Immersed several hours every week to do productivity and production. I sit and I'll do my email, participate in video conferences, work with documents in Microsoft 365. It's absolutely a premier productivity platform for the Oculus Quest, that if you have a Quest, you're watching this in a Quest, you should definitely check out. And that's what we're using today, using the in-app camera in Immersed. I have to say, it is probably the easiest platform to kind of replicate what we've been doing in spaces up till this point. And so again, encourage you to really check that out. But today's topic is Virbela. And Virbela is kind of at the top of the heap when you think about large-scale meeting and collaboration spaces. But rather unique in that it is not focused in VR. In fact, the content that I'll be bringing to you today was recorded from my desktop. It's the first time here at VR for Work that we actually recorded strictly from the desktop without being within VR. Even though as you're watching this video clip roll here on the PowerPoint, you very much get the impression that this space was absolutely designed with VR in mind, but frankly, it wasn't, and we'll talk about that as we move forward in our talk today. In fact, it caused me a little bit of confusion and head scratching when I first started using it several months ago, and is why it's kind of coming to us later after looking at so many other platforms here at VR for Work, because it was kind of a confusing mix for me in terms of understanding its intent and how it was to be used. But again, as you can see from the clip that's rolling, it's got a lot to offer. So let's jump in. What is Virbela? Well, as I've mentioned, it's firmly in that category of meeting and collaboration and training and education. It has what you might lump into 4 specific offerings. There's the open campus, which is free, and what I'll be showing you today in our demo. There's a public arena for online events, meetings, and classes. But keep in mind, they're all open and they're all public. Now, once you get into wanting to have a specific group that you're limiting access to, you start to get into the fee-based offerings in Virbela. You have team suites, which allows you to have a private group area to collaborate in and chat. You're still in that open campus, but you can now go to a private area that you can have folks join you through access methodologies and are only open to the folks who have, the username and password, if you will, right? That grants you access to offices, boardrooms, open chat areas. You can custom brand and do some custom layouts, and it gives you some administration tool to administer with those users. Then you have the private campus, which is fee-based also, and it's a virtual headquarters. It basically takes that open campus idea or area and extends it, that whole virtual space, to just your business or your corporation. It scales up to thousands of users with dozens and dozens of spaces. You can customize the environment and the spaces in the layout. There's a support agreement that goes along with that, so you have maintenance and support from Virbela themselves. And is probably the most unique of its offerings out there amongst all the 3D spatial offerings that I've come across. And then you have just a unique offering around renting Virbela, if you will, for events. Again, fee-based, right? Very large scale, up to thousands and thousands of users. And I first was introduced to Virbela back in April at the Laval Virtual World, right at the very early phases of the pandemic when things were shutting down. And I had come across this event that I was able to sign up for and go check out. And again, this is where some of my confusion came in, right? Laval Virtual Conference. Okay, it's virtual. So I'm going to access this with my, so I kept putting on my headset and going into Virbela, and then kind of feeling like I was missing something, that people were doing things that I didn't seem to have the capability to do. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the talk here. But then afterwards found out, well, there are utilities and functionality on the desktop version that has not been transferred into the VR version yet. All right. And so what are the platform requirements? Well, it has a very robust desktop client for Mac and PC. So right now I'm filming this using a Zoom session. So if you think of Virbela as a Zoom or a WebEx or a Skype platform that takes place in a 3D spatial environment, you kind of get the idea, right? So you have this client that exists on your desktop or on your Mac, and you access the world or your sessions through it. And those sessions are 3D and spatial. There is a Virbela intercom application, mobile app for Apple and Android, that allows you to participate via video or audio conference into these 3D spatial conferences. So again, much like Skype, Zoom, WebEx, GoToMeeting, right? You have this mobile piece where you can still participate even if you're on the go in these video 3D spatial conferences. And if you look on Virbela's site and you look around, you will not see the mention of head-mounted displays and VR on their website. I had to dig a little bit, and I'll show you what I found. But it is VR compatible with the Oculus Rift or the Quest via Link, like I use to get into it, and the HTC Vive. In fact, when you launch it on your Windows desktop, if you have Steam installed, you'll notice Steam lights up, right? It recognizes Steam is there, and it grabs and launches Steam VR. And so let's get down to the VR tie-in here, right? And this is from the Virbela blog, just April of this year. And I'm going to read this just in case you have trouble with it. Nothing new to those who have been working with VR for years now. And this is kind of, you know, a little bit into the article where they're talking about the advantages with VR. In some ways, it might seem we are late to the party. And I highlighted this. This bolding is from me. It's worth noting that VR is certainly not the primary focus for Virbela. You see me scratching my head, right? It's worth noting that VR is certainly not the primary focus for Virbela. No particular technology or platform is. Our focus is on helping as many people as possible come together in 3D environments to collaborate and communicate. As such, we started with PC and Mac and prioritized our desktop build rather than making it an afterthought in addition to a dedicated VR build. This gave us some time to see how the VR market matured while building a sustainable business, one that didn't rely on the adoption of VR hardware or left us waiting on the next VR headset being touted as the next game changer. Smart business angle here. That said, we believe VR is here to stay, and we believe VR will eventually be the most compelling way to interact with others in Virbela. So I did not bold that. That was bolded within the blog, right? We believe VR is here to stay, and we believe that VR will eventually be the most compelling way to interact with others in Virbela. This early experimental support for VR doesn't give VR users all the features that those on desktop have, and while it's sure to have some issues, it's nevertheless a solid step forward for Virbela and VR. We're also already working on support for other VR headsets, including Windows mixed reality headsets. All right, I'm going to come out of my share a minute here. So I want to call this out, right? So they recognize and they admit that their focus is on desktop. Their focus is on Windows and Mac clients. They want to help get as many people as possible into the platform while they were waiting for the VR industry to kind of settle out, right? We've seen a lot of growth, and in fact, Virbela, which is on the stock exchange, I believe the stock symbol is EXPI. If you go look at their last 6-month or 12-month growth, they've gone up maybe 300%. So they're definitely getting a lot of traction. They're definitely getting a lot of interest. They were focused on scaling so that they could have the platform that would accommodate the largest number of users in 3D possible. And they're kind of backing into VR as a mode to participate in, if you will, in addition to their desktop client and their mobile audio client. So I don't think that's a bad plan. I don't think that's a bad thing. For those of us who are kind of into VR, just exciting to see what they have in store coming up next. So let's go back now to the presentation and get started. And so see if I can pause this occasionally. So when you come into Virbela, and again, this is on my desktop, give you just a quick overview here. This is my avatar, and I set up my avatar in advance. I'm here kind of in the landing space in the main campus area. You can see buildings kind of off in the view here. You see an information booth off to your right. You've got a mini map down here in the lower right-hand corner. Those of us that are gamers, you know, especially our real-time strategy, very used to having a mini map handy. Over here, click here to access your private team suite, right? And then right here in front of us, these two avatars are real individuals who work for Virbela. I can't say they're there 24 hours a day, but when I recorded this on a Saturday, Tina and I think it was Vicky were right there, and they greeted every single person who came into the public campus area, and were there to help orient you and get you going in Virbela. That's fantastic. Down here on the lower left, you can see that my mic is off. I can also have a text box area where I can text to individuals in here. In the upper left, it shows me how many users are in the world and how many users right now are in the campus. And then it lists those users out in the public campus, and I could interact with them through that menu. All right, let's get going back. Now, you'll see that I'm moving using my trackpad or mouse here, and you see this little highlighted figure, and that kind of is the teleport system. So I can point with my mouse where this little highlighted person is, and my avatar would walk there. So it's not like you disappear and transport. In fact, you'll see this in a second. I think I stop. Okay, you draw a line and you walk. And here again in the common area, I'll pause, you get a bulletin board, and you'll see that one of the key features, the secret sauce to Virbela, are just screens and screens and screens all over the place, right? And every single one of them on the upper right, you can click the magnifying glass, and you'll go out of this third-person view into a first-person view, and it will take up the full screen, and then you can go back out. And if there's information that needs to be refreshed, you can refresh it, a web window. Okay, let's continue. So I'm going to go over here, and then again, public area. You have your support, event info, quick user guide, book a tour, microphone help. And then over here, the events this week. And I'll pause here just a second at the right spot. There we go. And I don't know how well you can see this, but every day of the week, they have public tours, right? So getting started, tour Virbela, Virbela tools for success, Virbela explained, and then a community event, a social hour at the beach where you can talk to other users. And yes, I said at the beach, because Virbela, as you'll see in a moment, is built as an island. And in fact, we will go over to the map as soon as I get my bearings here. It was a little wonky kind of getting used to how the mouse worked and moving around in the space. I did finally figure out that you can, again, using gaming conventions, WASD, and then you can free move. And there I think I figured out, okay, WASD, and there I am walking. I'm going over here, and I'm going to come up to the world map. Right, they definitely had some gamers involved in this. And you can see here is Virbela, right? This is the campus map. You can see it's an island, and listed over here are all the various areas that you have to select from over here in the upper left-hand corner of the go-to, right? Your landing area, the campus, the auditorium, welcome seating, information center, tech support, the main hall, the skyscraper, the boardroom, the conference hall, room, the soccer field, the beach, right? Lots to pick from. And you can kind of get a bird's eye view here of the physical layout of Virbela. Now I'm going to back around, turn around. I think I'm going back and forth here between using my mouse and using WASD to move around. Come over here. Here's another one of these big screens that you can see. That's up here. Kind of shows you how to navigate. And I think at this point, let me see, I'm going to get ready to pause because I am going to pull up the go-to. All right, here we go. So now I've used my mouse, I've kind of come up here and I've clicked go to, and then this is kind of how you teleport into the various spaces across the Virbela campus. We're going to go into all 3 demo areas. So I kind of just cycle through a couple of them here down to demo, and we've got demo auditorium, demo conference hall, and demo team suite. We're going to go into the auditorium. So here we are, we landed in the auditorium, and you can see large presentation platform up front, podium, 3 big screens, and rows of seating. You know, as they had mentioned in their blog post, you know, their primary objective was numbers. All right, let me pause here a second. Okay, what's numbers? Was how many people can we get into these spaces, and then we'll figure out how to get them in using VR. So one of the unique things here is every time you enter a specific space, there's a public area and then there's a presentation area. When you walk into a presentation area like I did in the stage here, you'll get this presentation toolbar that pops up in the lower right-hand corner. And so you can see that what's controlling this monitor right now is this presentation bar. And that up here along the top are kind of the key tools, right? So I can bookmark the page that's up there. I can upload a file to the screen. I can share my screen. And I can start a video conference. So let's see what I'm going to do. Share my desktop. I've clicked that. Okay. And now my desktop, which is, you know, I'm bringing up actually my nearest share file. I can pull up my file picker. I can go to a web page here. Let's go to youtube.com. And that's going to take up the screen up here in a second. See if I can get it going. And then that's what will be presented back to the audience. But you'll become very familiar with the presentation tool. So I walk off the stage, those presentation tools disappear. See, mouse clicks, I was trying to control the monitor from back here where I could see it. And it says, nope, can't do that. Walk back up on the stage. There are my tools. Now I'm going to pull up YouTube again, hit enter, and this time, oh, file picker. All right, let's try YouTube again. And there we go. Now we've got it. Now this is what's behind me on the screen. And what I was trying to do was kind of get a good view of the screen. Now I turned myself around. And now I can see kind of what the audience sees as well as have it here in my presentation view. So of course, we're going to run a VR for Work video, our last one. And there it is. It's now up here and running really smoothly, I might add. And very quickly, it launched right into it. Now I'm going to go down into the audience. Because again, I want to get an audience view of the material. And I'm going to get down here and actually, now what I did was I pointed at one of the seats in the audience, and right away a message comes up that says click to take a seat. And as immediately as you click, boom, you're in a seated position in the audience. So you could pick, you know, any open seat in the auditorium, click, and you're seated. Now again, you know, I can't help but see this from a perspective of being in a VR headset, but when I was doing this, I was on my desktop and participating in it that way, because one of the things they do not have right now in VR are these presentation tools, right? You can't, you're strictly in a view-only mode when you're in VR. So I had to go back up to the stage because for some reason I left the video stopped running. Now I'm sitting so that I can kind of get a sense of watching the video. Okay, well, we see how that works in the auditorium. And these monitors can also have other things. Perhaps, you know, they would have branding on them or whatever as the center video. Or you could have the same thing running on all three videos. Very cool. And again, the scale is pretty amazing when you think this auditorium probably easily sits 150, 200 folks. And that's real butts in seats, not artificial folks like I had in my auditorium in spaces. So maybe someday, right? All right, let's go check out the team suites now. So I brought up my go-to, I selected team suites, and I get dropped into this large open area where we see all along the hallway various open offices. And then these open areas kind of out in the middle. And you'll notice that as I look at it, there is a blue outline. And that's because, again, remember I talked about having the presentation areas. As I walk into that blue area, you'll notice that the screen will change and light up for me. Boom. So now, and you'll notice also down there in the right-hand corner, you are in a private room. So as people join you here, your conversation and what's on the screen stays with the folks that are in that space. The people walking by can see people sitting there, but they don't hear or see what you're seeing on the screen. So again, now I have my presentation tools that are down here in the middle. I've said let's focus in on the screen, and let's run another YouTube. And guess what we're going to run once we get to YouTube? The shameless plugs, folks. The shameless plugs. I can't help it. We're going to run another VR for work video. I did have a thought cross my mind as I was going across all this spaces. How long would it take me to load and just loop my VR for work videos on all these monitors across Virbela? But yeah, didn't have time for that. So you can see, again, another space. Again, once you kind of get the sense of how this works, it translates into any other area you go to, whether it's the auditorium, these public spaces. I think we'll walk over here to the boardroom. Even these small spaces. Let me see if I can capture that again. Let's pause there. Back up just a smidge. So as I walk out of here, and you'll see these smaller areas, these little kiosk stations where there's a couple of computers, right? You see these blue outlines. So this would be a great spot for two people to sit. You're sitting in front of a dual screen monitor, you pull up some material and you're discussing what you're seeing there. I think this is all very, very cool and very much like you might imagine doing at a large conference hall. So again, here I go, okay? As soon as I walk into the room, these monitors all light up to tell me, okay, you're in a private room. All the people here that are with you can hear and see what you're doing. Walk up to a monitor, go into your presentation mode, use your tools, right? I'll bore you again with pulling up YouTube and VR for work. But as I was getting the hang of this, probably no worse than the fact that every time you walk up, there's a Virbela site is listed, right? So, right, and again, more of the same. So let's see, maybe we'll jump ahead. Oh, yeah, let's just go ahead and jump ahead. Let's see what we've got. And so here it is, it's running, you're in the boardroom again, you can control all these monitors, do different things. I think we're going to now jump to the last demo location. You can see you can even shut the door and prevent any further people from walking in. But you can see, again, large open area, lots of different offices. Open and available 24/7, basically for free, for you to take advantage of. Okay, so, yep, we're going to go into the conference hall next, I guess. Last site, okay, conference hall. So you can see you've got these tables stretched out in front of you. All the seating is facing forward. 3 large monitors. A little bit different in that these tables are lettered, and I assume that is so you can assign various individuals tables as they enter the areas for assigned seating as they come into the conference hall. All right, and I'm not going to bore you. I mean, we're going to walk up here. As soon as I hit this carpet, boom, presentation tools come up. I'm ready to go. And yes, run more VR for work video. Okay, all right. Have you seen enough of that? Let's go on from here. So one of the things I wanted to bring to your attention is that Virbela is also one of these 5 platforms that Vive has partnered with to bring businesses the Vive XR suite. And we talked about this back when we did our discussion about Sync and about Engage. And so we've actually covered 3 of the 5 here. Now, Engage is that platform where you're going to be doing your training, your education, using your 3D assets, your simulations. And Virbela obviously is going to be for your meetings, your brainstorming, your large-scale conferences and sessions, and that's all going to be bundled. And I'm just guessing or hoping, I guess, that HTC does a good job of making these kind of more or less easily seamless and branded, so that a company's not sitting there going, well, do I want to go into social or campus or sessions or sync? So I'm curious to see how all that turns out. But Virbela is one of those offerings in this suite. And so here's your pricing list. Again, Open Campus, what I was showing you, free. You can go download, set up your account, utilize that right now. Team Suites starts at $100 a month, and that's for 10 to 100 users. And you can see you get a lot of what's in the Open Campus, but then you start being able to get paid support, administration features for your users, and the private offices, so that you're going to have a suite on the skyscraper at the Virbela campus that is just accessible by VR for work. So if you're there to see VR for work, or you work with VR for work, you just go into that private office suite, no one else. Then you've got the largest offering, the private campus, and they actually detail a real estate company that is a customer that has done their entire platform, their entire business here in the private campus. It totally exists on Virbela. All of their team members, their employees, their meetings happen here within the 3D campus in Virbela. They have their own island, if you will, and work with Virbela to manage, support, and customize that. And then if you're just doing an event, or you need a venue for something, you can work with them for a one-off private event. And so here's our assessment. Virbela, very, very impressive platform and system. However, the caveat is, if you are going to access it in VR, it is attendee only, if you will, right? You're not going to be doing or setting up or designing your presentations within the VR platform. It is, I think, a great alternative to Zoom, WebEx, and some of these other flat platforms that are just using kind of video presence, and I think is that whole next level, as shown by the real estate company that decided to kind of build their whole presence as a entity around being in Virbela. You're not going to be doing production. You're not going to be necessarily being efficient right now using VR to do it. Although I have to think that if you're putting on, need a venue, you're putting on a presentation, or you want to have a meeting with somebody and you want to take it to that next level, this is really pretty easy. You're installing an application just like you would if you were doing a Zoom or a Skype. Set up an account and kind of you're in. There's a little bit of UI that you have to learn, but other than that, it gives you that presence in that world, and kind of helps with your attention and your flow on what you're focusing on, right? We have this issue of easily being distracted. At least I know I am when I participate in these hour or 2 hour long conference calls or video conferences. I'm constantly distracted by my mail or some other thing. Whereas if I'm a character, or I'm present with these other people in this physical setting, I think my attention would be more along the lines of the social aspects of what are happening in that space, and with the presenters that are in front of me. Again, it's all about social and collaboration, right? It's replacing that actual presence that is so difficult to come by nowadays, but it does help transcend kind of space and time a bit. And I'm looking forward to doing more and more work here and maybe meeting with some of you out there in Virbela sometimes. And then the value, well, I think that's something that you would have to kind of crunch some numbers and see if there is a trade-off between some of the other tools and spaces that you're using now, or if your entire business could go into a virtual space like Virbela, then it might very well be well worth the dollars versus actual real estate and utilities that you're purchasing if you were to actually kind of rent office space. And we're going to end with this thought: consider everything an experiment. And certainly those folks who are utilizing tools like we are, as we look at VR, if we look at 3D spatial computing like Virbela, everything's an experiment. We're trying to figure out how this works. I'm trying to figure out how I can utilize these tools to communicate with you, and using things like spaces, and which, ends up being a great experiment that ended and may not have a future, but leads to engage and leads to immersed and leads to Virbela and leads to, kind of a stream of how do we continue to refine and make these platforms better and more engaging to the average user so that we can continue to see them grow and expand. And I think that, certainly one of the interests here at VR for Work and in showing you that these platforms are certainly capable of doing what is necessary to be productive, to be efficient, and to get things done for a better quality and increased life outside of spatial computing. And so we're considering everything an experiment. Let us know what you think about our experiment today with Immersed and bringing our show to you today from our Starship here up above Earth. Immersed has several other 3D environments that we'll likely utilize. Again, this has probably been the easiest platform to get set up and to record in and to bring this to you in. So I'm a little lazy. I probably use it many times again. So thank you again for joining us. Hope you kind of continue to check back in here at VR for Work. And until then, we'll see you in the metaverse. Bye now.